Wow.
So that's what Lee was working with.
Wow. Just, I'm speechless. What a
That's
scumbag.
the kind of people. Yeah, well, that was his handler. And we have Gaten Fonzie interviewed Antonio Veciana, who says that Lee was there with him meeting David Atlee Phillips. Okay? It's on record.
It's amazing how they set him up, they sheep dipped him, and then they hung him out to dry. And I'm glad that Lee knew what was going on, at least.
Unscribed, SCRIBD. I have material such as the granny knot, the blanket that they found in the garage was supposed to have held the rifle. It turns out it was tied with granny knots, which no Marine would ever do. But unscribed, again, I'm going to say the word SCRIBD plus my name, Judyth Vary Baker. It's Judyth, Vary, Vary, Baker. You put those together and you'll come up with various writings I've done showing how Lee was innocent, and including like the Granny Knot, which is one of the newest ones. They're really worth reading to give you an idea of what kind of man he was and how he's been vilified and how they did it.
It's just incredible. And it's not, people go, oh, well, you would have to have a vast conspiracy. It is. You should see the amount of people that are involved in it. I mean, Lyndon Johnson, you got people like Clint Murchison, the oil guys, the CIA, the mafia. It wasn't one. It's like 9/11. It wasn't one organization. To pull something off like that, it requires help from people in multiple organizations.
Yeah, and they're trying to say, well, somebody would have talked. Well, they did, and they died.
Yeah, everybody that ever said anything died. Look at the amount of witnesses and people that were close to the assassination, or anybody involved in the assassination that died. Two of the one dancer that worked for Jack Ruby opened her mouth, and they found her hanging
by her toreador pants. Yeah. And then you've got, look at poor Mary Sherman. You've got Ed Haslam's wonderful book about Mary Sherman,
Yeah, Dr. Mary's Monkey, I think it's called, right?
Yeah, it's called Dr. Mary's Monkey. And there you find out that this poor woman, you find her just like Guy Bannister. Here's Guy Bannister, who knew a lot. And, of course, his friend in the book, you'll find out that Hugh Ward was involved a lot with Lee, all right? With his trip to Mexico City. Hugh Ward dies a month before, just a few weeks before Guy Bannister. Okay? Guy Bannister dies just a month before Mary Sherman. Mary Sherman dies the day the Warren Commission comes to get testimonies in New Orleans that are unsolicited. She's on the front page. And I'm telling you, who's going to talk when they see that one of the star witnesses, it would have been if she'd spoken out, you find out she's been murdered, she's slashed, she's burned. They don't mention that her arm is missing. Okay, her right arm is missing totally. People who say, linear particle accelerators cannot vaporize an arm. There are a couple families on record where we know, and Ed Haslam has a record of one person who was totally vaporized by one of these machines. He keeps their name private, but I've seen the records. Only a few things have come out. A lot of people have tried to say, that could not have happened, that linear particle accelerator burned off her arm. I've worked with people who worked with those machines, and of course it could do that. So we have poor Mary Sherman is found dead the same day that she could have given testimony to the Warren Commission. That's no accident.
No. Well, look at Lee Bowers. He was a witness. He was in the yard, the railroad yard, above the grassy knoll area, and he saw people and stuff, and he testified, and then he dies in a single car accident.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and you never hear about the single car accident. You find out later that people saw that he was actually pushed off the road. That never comes out. So, there's so much out there. When you get more of the facts, sometimes it breaks my heart to see how people, of course, they don't have time. They believe the first thing they see. Trust me, the first things when you plug in Lee Harvey Oswald to come up, I checked it out. It takes at least this is a month ago, it took 21 pages to get to anything that was telling the truth about Lee. 21 pages you have to go down before you finally run into something that resembles the truth. It's all the official version and very, mirrors of it. By the way, on Wikipedia, when we tried to fix the biography on Lee Oswald, because it says that he dropped out of school and it mentions the Marines, it never mentioned that he got his GED in the Marines. So we tried to add that tiny little fact that he did finish his education. He got his GED in the Marines. And when they not only erased that, but then they erased my Wikipedia biography.
Wow.
So, yeah,
well, look what they did. Look what Lady Bird Johnson did with your 3 episodes. The three infamous episodes of The Men Who Killed Kennedy, which is actually the love affair was the episode that woke me up to you. I found it a couple of years ago. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
I've lost 50 pounds since then. I was sick. I just got out of the hospital. I've been treated with steroids, and I was, I look like a.
That was from one of the attempts on your life, correct? The hospital visit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's because I'd been hit by a car, and I had terrible pain and all that. I had neck injury and everything, and I was in the hospital, and they had. Then I fell, and I got a second concussion. I hardly knew my name anyway, and I could hardly walk, and I did it anyway, and pretended I was okay, but it was not easy. Anyway, I'm 50 pounds lighter now. I look a whole lot better, but that's not the point. The point is that people will judge your looks and not who you are, what you're trying to say. But not only Lady Bird, but it was also Eisner from Disney was against it, and we had former President Ford and former President Jimmy Carter, and we had Jack Valenti of the Motion Picture Guild. All of them came up against it. Now, what are you going to do about that? Down, out it went. By the way, Nigel Turner has never been seen again. Talk about people in hiding try to reach Nigel Turner.
Yeah, what happened to him?
Well, he had a family, so you don't see him anymore. Never hear of him anymore. It's over.
I guess that was the end of his career, huh?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. In 2013, he's a brave man. He might come out again with something. I don't know. I hope he survives it. It's that bad.
I mean, that's just, he, look at the last 3 episodes. See, the 6 that are out, the reason why, I know the reason why they let those stay out. That's
because they're not the truth. They're not getting close enough to the truth.
Exactly. They touch on it a little bit. They brush up against it, but barely, and they create more confusion than anything else because, the first 6 episodes are the Mafia did it. No, the Cuban dissidents did it. No, this.
No, the French did it,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the pointing fingers are over. It's the last 3. Well, the episode about Oswald I like that episode because they did show a lot of the interviews with Jim Garrison where Jim Garrison was saying that he was explaining that if they humanize Oswald, the reason they have to demonize him is because if they show that he has a human side, people might start to look at it a little different and say, wait a minute, he wasn't such a monster. So they have to vilify him, and that's why, again, it's important to me. It's important that you get as much time as you need to, tell your story because it's very, very important to get it out.
Well, there's one thing people wonder. They say, "How can you remember all those conversations, word for word?" Because I do. But what they've forgotten is that if somebody's talking about the murder of the President of the United States, you're going to remember. You will remember. And, I kept them in my heart. The another thing is that for some reason I can remember, by the way, 60 Minutes did a story on it. I'm not exactly as eidetic of memory as some of them now that I've had the head injuries, but I still can see whole days in front of me what we ate and everything 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago without a problem, My family knows this. It's just the way it is. Now, I get lost going around the corner, but if you ask me what somebody said or what happened, on a day, even the hour, I can usually get it right. I can tell you the weather. It's just the way it is. It's just the way my mind is. I've got too much stuff in my head, frankly.
Well, you are a wealth of information. I mean, you are a very smart lady. I was talking to you, off air, and
Yeah.
you knew all about chemtrails and 9/11. I was just blown away, Judith. I was like, "Holy cow!"
Well, it's kind of a curse in a way. And I mean, I read the whole encyclopedia before I got out of high school, Encyclopedia Britannica. You can have a whole bunch of knowledge, but that doesn't mean you know how to use it properly, or that you can appropriate it for to help your own life or anything like that. I'm not very practical, and I always it was easy to manipulate me. I was easily manipulated because I didn't have enough people experience. I had boyfriends, I had fun, played, dance, rock and roll and all that, but I could be easily fooled because I was young and impressionable. I was impressed.
Not now, though, I'll bet.
Oh, no. No.
I'll bet you're
no
an
way, Jose.
avid pro right now.
Unfortunately, with all the hindsight I have and everything, watching what's happening to our country now, my heart is filled with grief because I frankly don't see any. It's not funny when you see all these mass grave coffins and things put together. Imagine you can have something released among the population, what they say, get rid of the eaters. You don't need all these people to stay healthy and wealthy and strong at the top. You only need about a tenth of the people that are on the face of the earth right now to run things.
Well, look at the cancer rate. They found out that they had put a cancer-causing virus in the polio vaccine about what was like 40 years ago, and now all of a sudden
they knew this too. They deliberately released it anyway, and there are so many contaminations that don't even get caught until later. The contamination is an easy thing that can happen, but what's worse, I think, is that they don't seem to care. They really don't seem to care about. I was reading about a vet who was saying, what we do with the puppies? We check their antibody levels before we give them their shots. Because if their antibody levels are high, we don't give them the shots because it doesn't work very well. They never check to see if a child is still nursing its mother before insisting that they get shots. How come we do better for our puppies than we do for human beings?
Right. Because the veterinarians actually care about the puppies, whereas the
human
doctors don't.
If they give the vaccine at this when the antibody rate is high, it's not going to work well. They have to wait till the antibody goes low enough so you can get an antibody response. Okay, they don't do any tests like that on human beings, on babies. That's ridiculous.
What do you think about the whole swine flu thing?
Well, I'll put it this way: if you want to go and scare people to death, you put something out there to see just how much you have to do in order to get control of a population by fear. Fear makes people do almost anything. And also, people do not like to be moved from their spot that they're familiar with. So it's like the frog, You put a frog in warm water and you raise the temperature 1 degree at a time, and the frog will end up boiling to death and not even know it. You just test and see just how much the population will take. And they go that far, and then you add more fear factor, they'll accept more. They'll accept more and more and more. Finally, what happens? We have our freedoms removed from us. The violence in America is disgusting. I'm overseas here, and I realize how much. Do you know that in Sweden, for example, it's against the law to have your picture taken at the ATM? It's considered an invasion of privacy.
Wow.
You've lost this in America. Over in Turkey, this is Turkey I'm talking about, okay? It's nobody's, how this stuff you have to fill out. There's just, I'll just put it this way. You give out so much private information in America. It's amazing. You allow it to happen. You allow tremendous invasions of your privacy, but police treat you rotten. Absolutely rotten. It's not their fault. I was looking at Star Wars. When Star Wars came out with all that battle equipment and all that, now we have armed police for riot. They look like the chaos Star Wars.